Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about how your behavior affects your growth. And today, my guest is Jason Avery. And in 14 years, Jason built a team of 50 plus, generating 5.4 million annually, and with 62% of business from referrals. Now he works on his business, not in it, and he has interests in 4 other companies. Author of Constructing Success, a #1 bestseller. He's a top 40 under 40 honoree and was named a top 100 professional in construction and real estate. Wow. With dozens of awards, Jason is a sought after trainer and speaker. Welcome, Jason. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to get the invite.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's hearing the list now, and reflecting back to where it started. That's the key, boy, a kid that was just hell on wheels and, didn't want to listen to the rule of parents and, going out there and just hustling and working 3 jobs at a time, whatever it took to get the job done. It's been quite the journey. My 20s helping big corporation grow, but in essence, getting an MBA while on the job for free. And then in my 30s, helping another company grow, learning how to diversify multiple revenue streams. But in between, there's these businesses that I started and they ultimately failed. They were great for a while, and then something, life changes, the world changes around you, and they fail. And so the energy to keep going, to pick yourself up, brush yourself off, keep trying, take what you've learned and figure out how to make that better and go out to operating with integrity. After witnessing some others who maybe, didn't operate with as much integrity, that is a topic that's very passionate to me. So I'm so glad to be here to share today the things I learned along the way to, finding success and finding the ability to, help others achieve success along the way. That's something that's near and dear to me.
Oh, amazing. I'm super excited. Yeah. So you kind of tapped into a little bit there, but yeah, talk about how you sort of got into this field of work and just, why you're so passionate about it.
So the remodeling world is where I'm at, and it just happened chance. I started my first business at 19 as a telemarketer. When the FTC changed regulations, it rolled me over into this corporation that had a call center. They happen to sell roofing and windows and siding and storm protection statewide. So, I'm in the exterior improvement space. I go from a sales rep to an administrator to a director to a vice president over an 8-year run, and this company grows from 9 million to 20 million. So I learned what corporate growth is like. But then when the federal do not call list became a thing, it was detrimental to that company. And so the top end, we stepped out of the way, and I started my next business. Constructing, back then it was home improvement consultants. And so find people that need a project and be the middleman, and I'll help them guide through the process of finding the reputable contractor, the one with integrity, the one that would, the bids were true and honest and right. And, so I started finding a passion in that. And then in the process of designing a lot of kitchens for people, I come to learn that it was a way better space. That, when somebody needs a roof, it's because they need it, and it's a sad thing. And when somebody's getting a kitchen, it's something they want, and it was a happy thing. And so I'm a happy guy. I like the positive energy. I decided, to jump on board with the company that was doing this full time. And I, as general manager of operations, running factories and people in the field, I really got to become an expert at a lot of different trades along the way. Sooner or later, and the company owner and I don't see eye to eye anymore about the future and the direction. And now it's time to start all over. And I started with 3 guys doing labor and a bookkeeper 1 day a week. But I was introduced to this concept called networking, and through relationship building and a whole lot of training on how to do it correctly. And that little company now has 45 people working in the greater Tampa Bay area doing remodeling. They, accomplished most of the job without me. I'm the leader, I'm the recruiter, I'm the trainer, I'm improving on the processes and systems, but it only requires maybe 10 hours of my week to keep this well-oiled machine running. And so I went on to open a custom cabinet factory that's about 8 years old now, and 2 partners, 2 managers, 4 more on the staff, and again another operation that's running for the most part without me. I'm the leader, I'm the trainer, I'm the recruiter, and then now I go on and I coach other smaller general contractors how to do this through constructing success. I teach other entrepreneurs how to grow their business based off their relationships, and behavior has a lot to do with that. We'll come to that topic. And I work with some attorneys as an expert witness. Most recently, with my wife, we bought a commercial building, we renovated it, and then we now set up a therapeutic spa. My wife is a massage therapist, my daughter the esthetician. We've got some equipment to offer other services, but in hindsight, what do I do every day? I try to help other people grow. I try to help other people become empowered. The actual core values of the remodeling business we call it five. It's performance, it's integrity, and it's empowerment. And empowerment can mean a lot of things. It's empowering your customer to be able to make educated decisions because you provided all the right necessary information. It's empowering the member of the staff to make as much as they want, and don't have a ceiling trapped in by a salary or an hourly rate, but instead an incentive that allows them to grow themselves, which is helping you grow in the process, and ultimately to grow their way up, the pyramid in the company as they're building on their skill sets. It's empowering people and doing it. Integrity is the key to the trust, to the people wanting that from you, is when they know that what comes out of your mouth is absolute and true. Sometimes maybe I could be accused of saying too much. It's always pure and honest and true. And I think that customers are drawn to my business because of the fact that we don't try to fake it. We don't try to sugarcoat it. The other contractor might have said it was going to happen really fast and it was going to, only cost a little bit, and there's not going to be any dust anywhere. But what's the truth behind that? I've taken the tactic of coming in and saying, this is going to take too long, this is going to cost too much, and dust is going to get everywhere no matter how hard I try to protect it. and paint that honest picture, and that integrity that goes a long way. People are magnetically drawn to that. They can handle the truth if you give it to them. And now I'm setting a clear expectation. I'm preparing them for the worst so that whatever happens from this point forward, I can deliver better. And the old adage that you want to under promise and over deliver, right?
Yes, and I think that's amazing, because especially maybe someone who's never had anything remodeled before, I don't know what it's like, to actually think like, oh, it's going to be totally clean and fine and they can protect everything. It's like, oh no. And I think that's amazing to be just sort of upfront with it, to set expectations. And I think you're right, that really does build more trust, because you're just actually being upfront and honest with them. And maybe it won't be as messy as like they're thinking about, but yeah, they definitely. But my stepfather was in construction, so our house was constantly under renovation. My mom was constantly like, we don't want this wall anymore, let's change this room to this room. Like, God, in one house, I think I had 5 bedrooms in one house because I got moved around so much because they were changing rooms all the time. So
in
I
my own home, I'm not allowed to
dust.
In my own home, I'm not allowed to do the remodeling anymore because my wife knows that I would rather be out on the boat or on the golf course. And so I'm not going to spend every weekend. It's going to drag out forever. So I have to bring in my teams when it's time to do remodeling.
Sorry, man. So yeah, let's talk about, how someone's behavior can affect their growth. Give some tips on that.
So just start with this, is that we're all wired different and unique, but there are lots of common behavioral tendencies, traits, that we sort of fall into some categories. And so the easiest and simplest way that we can look at it is, some of us make decisions at a very fast pace, and it tends that we just walk fast, talk fast, we think fast, we make fast decisions, run right up, dive right in the pool. And that's just the style that we are. Others are going to take their time making a decision and be more comfortable with it. in order to be comfortable with it, they want to do a little research. They want to read up. They want to compare their options. And when they've got that information, that data that they need, then they will make their decision. But it's at a slower pace. It's just how we are, right? Now, if we just divided the population in half in two different piles, let's go ahead and split them one more time and create 4 piles. So if we go the other direction with it, some of us are people oriented. When I wake up, I'm going to think about, where am I going? Who am I going to get to see? How much time do I get to hang out with them? Where are we going to go? What kind of fun things are going to happen? I wonder if I get to help them. And it's all about the interaction with people. Whereas the other half of the pie there is going to be about the task. I've got a list, and I'm going to check things off my list today. I'm going to be effective and efficient, and I'm going to get results. I'm going to crush the obstacles, get them done. I'm going to be a perfectionist at what I do. But it's 100% about checking those items. So when we broke this pie into 4 pieces, first we'll say that 77% of us are dominant in 2 of those pieces, and we flip back and forth. And the flipping back and forth, we can relate to that as, what is our natural style? I'm comfortable, I'm at home in my social environment. Or what is my adaptive style? I might be under a little pressure. I'm at work. I got, things that I'm doing. And how do we react to those environmental things? How were we brought up in our community? How were we raised? These things can all impact it. But, if we have 77% of us have 2 different styles, and we look at what the individual 4 are: fast-paced, task-oriented, and those people are hustling and enterprising. You can tell at the meeting because they show up in a suit. They're very formal in the way they're dressed. Their business card is very professional and prepared. They introduce themselves in a very powerful way, declaring their accomplishments to you, and they maybe forget to ask about you. It's all about them. And they're very busy all the time. They shake your hand firm, with eyes beaming through you. You can picture these people, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get the fast-paced, people-oriented. And those are the fun-loving, gregarious, social butterflies. They wear bright, fancy colors, big patterns. They love to stand out in the room. They're talking with their hands. They're giving big hugs. They got big smiles. They're multitasking. They're talking to multiple people at once. And you can see that person in the room, right? We just start to identify them. They shake your hand like they're going to shake it off. They pump, pump, pump. And so, those people, we all have our strengths, and maybe those people are going to be great in the marketing and the sales. The first people we talked about might be better as the manager, the one that's going to help us hit the deadline, the director, and then you get the slower paced, people oriented. Maybe this is our HR department. They're caring, they listen. They're quieter, softer spoken. They're dressed in a lower tonality. They don't need to stand out. They don't want to stand out. That's uncomfortable. They don't like surprises. They just like even keel. They make sure that everybody's being heard and respected and listened to. And they can be some of the greatest relationship builders because they took the time to actually learn about you. And, it wasn't all about them or superficial. And so they have their strengths, but as we start to paint the picture of these, how opposite they are, the opposite corners especially can really start to clash. And the slower paced, task-oriented people, these are the people that we find in our IT department, our accounting department. They tend to prefer to work out of a cockpit. They might have 3 computer screens sort of surrounding them like a bubble to keep other people out of their space. They are not very social. They tend to have their arms folded, and when they shake your hand, their elbow is locked, and they're, again, keeping you out of the space from getting too close. They might take a step backward. And these people are great at processing data and information and, dotting every I and crossing every T. And we need these people. But again, we're not going to send them out to do our marketing. And, and the marketing person that goes and hangs out at the event and spends all their time at the bar or with their friends and might not be setting the appropriate goal, coming up with a strategy, following through with the process, following through with the follow-up, recording the results, and then determining how we're going to, adapt for the next go at this. It's, we need each other's strengths, the person who's directing things, is great at getting things done, but they're so busy and on the move that maybe they forgot to say please and thank you. And that can really, rub wrong some people. The lack of appreciation, the lack of, just acknowledgement of my existence here and what I'm bringing to the table. And the people on the softer side of it are going to look at the director as rude, arrogant, self-centered, narcissistic. So we need to understand how our behaviors are impacting the other people that are working around us on our team and our staff. We can really learn that their strengths are in the areas that I don't like, that I don't enjoy. And so, we can really complement and work together. But maybe this is in our clients. And while each client could be coming from a different behavioral style, that would mean they're motivated in different ways. How you're going to close the deal might be a little different to speak their language. Some people want you to get to the bottom line with the bullet points, and other people need the hand holding and want to go through the details of it. So you got to understand the difference if you want to relate to more people so that you become more referable, and ultimately understand that two opposites attract. So if you're working with a couple, a married couple, oh my gosh, you might be speaking two different languages in order to, find your way to a finish line. So yeah, our behavior is definitely affecting us and our growth. And the more we start to learn and understand that, and just not be fake, but maybe adapt a little bit so that we're not so extreme in our own right, in our own behavior, that we maybe are repelling others. We may be negatively impacting our credibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I actually had an interaction with a client recently, and it was like that. It was very much like direct to the point, like you're talking about, like the sort of non-emotional thing. And at one point, and then I was like, I think I just got out of some other client call, so I wasn't in having the best behavior, like in myself. And then I saw that and I reacted to it, right? And of course I apologized to her later, but it wasn't like a terrible reaction, but I was just like, whoa. And then she responded saying, yeah, like I have this problem. Like people often get offended by the way that I just do things. She's like, it comes from a place to love, but I can just be so direct, so that it just like comes off as if I'm,
I'm sure all of your listeners have experienced this in some way. Sometimes you meet somebody for the first time, and after a couple minutes of conversation, you walk away going, wow, that was such a great and awesome experience. And then there's those other times that you meet somebody, and after a few minutes of conversation, you walk away going, gee, that sure was awkward. It's because we're wired differently, and now we need to start to understand each other better. Those antisocial people can actually become very social if you start asking some brilliant questions. It's all about appealing to somebody else's style, and just making sure that you're honoring the way that they would like to be treated. Right. And Tony Alessandro has the program, the thing, it's called the Platinum Rule. We were all raised on the Golden Rule, the treating people the way that you want to be treated. Well, he's redefined it as the Platinum Rule, and it's treating people the way that they want to be treated. And you're going to get further faster in your relationship building process, which, if we're growing businesses, relationships are the key to everything. It's not just relationships with people who are going to feed me business all the time. If somebody says they get lots of business from realtors, I ask them, how many houses did you give to that realtor to sell this year? And if the answer is 0, that is a target market, client that we want to meet, but it's not a referral partner. It's a limited number of transactions. A referral partner, somebody that you're going to reciprocate with, and that you can give opportunities to them as many times as they can give opportunities to you. You guys have the same customer at the same time. You're bringing something different to the equation. You're not competing, but complementing and giving a fuller package. Well, these are the people we need to meet and build relationships with, because that reciprocation will make that relationship last for the next decade or more. And that is no longer a limited number of transactions, but instead it's a revenue stream. And off these additional revenue streams, I'm probably going to have to grow my business just to keep up. And that is where it's at. If we're trying to grow, and starting by learning to not let your behavior get in the way of growing some of your relationships with these referral partners, or the people that you meet in networking who possibly know those referral partners. Right. And if you're going to networking opportunities and trying to sell stuff, you're probably repelling people from you. They don't want to spend time with you. If you're going there trying to help and being willing to introduce them to people, because let's face it, we all know 500 people, the other person doesn't. And if I'm willing to introduce you to 1 or 2 of those people that I know that might be game changers for you, that they could be great referral partners, it's an easy introduction for me to make. Hey, you two can help each other. You should meet. Wow, it doesn't put me in any awkward position. You have the same customer at the same time, go for coffee, figure it out. And when you're the ultimate matchmaker, everybody loves Cupid. And you're motivating people on both ends of that equation to want to do the same for you. So now be clear and specific and concise about who that is, who you can help that might have the potential to help you back. And that's the message you want to send out. It's all about helping others. And if I say that I got something to offer, you're going to probably want to meet me. And so that is the premise of, moving your business forward, knowing your behavior can help it. And, integrity, just being true to yourself along the way, true about who you are, not being fake, and doing what you say you're going to do. If you show up on time to your appointments, because there's certain people that their behavior means if you're not 10 minutes early, you were already late. So if you're 5 minutes beyond the meeting time, I had a buddy of mine, he'd be posting online by that point going, it's 7:03 and they should have been here at 7. How long am I supposed to wait? And you don't want to have yourself tagged in this conversation. So, right. Understanding that, follow up, do what you say you're going to do, give people opportunities to grow, like the people that you're building your team with, those incentives that you lay out to give them the chance to go out and excel, it's amazing, what people do when given the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that. And it's not about, still being within your own integrity and who you are and which sort of the four you fit into, but you can adapt the way you are depending on who it is that you're meeting, and not get like the word repelled coming to mind, but by someone else's behavior to make sure you need to be like, okay, instead of being repelled and being defensive and walking away, maybe I can see like how I can, relate with this person or see what can happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's laws of attraction. You can be magnetic or you can be the other side of that magnet, so right. it's how it works.
Yeah. And it's a choice, right? Yeah. You can change your behavior. Well, this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, giving us those four, the fast pace, the slow pace, the people orientated and the task orientated, and how the combos of them. And I was actually, I've seen myself in like 3 of those.
So that's totally normal. So I naturally I am going to be fast paced, people oriented, and it's very high on the scale, and right beside it, just barely under it, is the fast paced, task oriented. And that's where I flip back and forth really easily, whether it's natural or adaptive. My slower paced, task oriented is kind of hanging out on the average line of the scale. I've got a lot of that detail and data in me, and I'm great at spreadsheets, but I tell you what, it exhausts me if I have to work on them for too long. It's just not what I want to be doing. I'll procrastinate until the last day of the month when it's due to jam it out in the last hour. But I don't enjoy it. And then the slower paced, people oriented side of me, and maybe the empathetic side in some ways, but it's not very strong in me. It doesn't come natural. I from an intelligence standpoint, understand that if I want to maintain relationships with people, that I have to slow down, be courteous, be considerate, be appreciative, recognizing, people along the way, that's, an essential step into the relationship building process, and it can't be left out, or it'll take you a whole lot longer to get there and building those relationships.
Yeah, exactly. So Jason, where can our listeners find you online?
So if you're in the Tampa Bay, Florida area and it's remodeling on the topic, it's averyconstruction.com. If you are a contractor in that same region, I have a cabinet factory that backs up and wholesales and supports contractors, like from wood, made from scratch. That's designercabinetsllc.com. I have my third company based off my book. My book was Constructing Success, Blueprints for Referral-Based Business. That's on Amazon or Kindle. The website that associates with that business is construct-success.com. And through that company, I offer training and coaching specifically to younger general contractors who are up and coming in my industry. I teach the tradesmen how to become a businessman. I also work with business professionals and entrepreneurs about how to grow their business, understanding how to reverse engineer a financial statement, how to set the goals in place, how to start building out the team and the infrastructure, how to hire the right people and incentivize them, because turnover is very expensive, and how to ultimately train up into that position where you're working on it versus in it. Additionally, I work with some attorneys as an expert witness for any kind of construction litigation.
Awesome. Thank you. And to finish us off, do you have any final words of wisdom?
So working under somebody else in my 30s, and he was trying to teach me a method of writing a very vague description with a total price, so that way when things went left on you, you had ways to wiggle out of it. And as the guy who had to clean up the messes and have very uncomfortable conversations with people all along the way, I learned that was not the best relationship building process, and that doesn't generate referrals for the future. And
Oh. Well, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I am in Potapalooza right now, where we have a whole sea of breakout rooms. And as a podcast host, you're allowed to bring somebody into your room, but they're not supposed to steal the person, which is what just happened with Jason. So he got ported off to another breakout room. But it sounded like, yeah, his final words of wisdom were to be in integrity and be honest. So thank you so much for today's episode, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.